Morning, beautiful people. This is Bread from the Beach. We are again looking at this thought and the reality, if you will, of Jesus being the Good Shepherd. Here's a verse out of chapter 10 of John's Gospel. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought them out, all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. The beautiful concept here, just being spoken here from the mouth of Jesus, is that he wants us to follow him because he's leading us into paths for his righteousness' sake. And he's leading us into paths that will be a blessing to us. Even if we're not sure where it's taking us, we know because we know the one who is taking us, we know that the journey is going to end up in a blessing to us. We may have difficulty in it. We'll grow, we'll experience things. But the truth of the matter is, he goes out before us and he leads us. And as we walk listening to his voice, we grow and the journey gets sweeter and sweeter until we find ourselves spending all eternity with our Father. Another thought that comes from this passage is that in verse 5 it simply says, "But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice." Hear me now. This is the depth of the intimacy that we're invited to with Jesus, that we would recognize his voice in the midst of a crowd. I've told folks a lot of times in my relationship with Betty Jo, and those who know me know that this is really profoundly true, and that when I'm on the road, I'll call Betty Jo any number of times during the course of a day, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a day. And somebody would say, well, what can be happening that you have to call 3, 4 times a day? Well, it's not what's happening. It's the fact that there's just something about hearing her voice that just blesses me and lets me settle into the things that I have to do. And after 56 years of marriage now, and then 7 years of dating before we got married, I can tell you, you could put me in a room with a ton of people. And when Betty Jo says, "Johnny," I can recognize the Johnny she says above anybody else in the room. So that even if somebody said "Johnny," trying to get my attention, I would know whether it was her or not. And if it was a matter of getting direction, I'm not following that other voice. I'm following that voice that I've come to recognize over these years of marriage. It's about the relationship with Jesus that we're invited into that is so intimate that we can recognize his voice and that we will follow that voice. We will not follow a stranger. We are led by him and his voice. What an amazing invitation to intimacy. Jesus was Lord at his birth. He's God in the flesh. He knows us by name. He leads out in front of us and we know his voice. What an incredible journey we're invited to. This has been Bread from the Beach. Be blessed.